host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Appreciate you listening to AFR on this Thursday, January the 25th, 2024. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. Good to see you, Tim.
Pardon me. Got a little popcorn going down the wrong pipe there. Huh? All right, good morning, Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
And Ray Pritchard. How you doing, Brother Ray?
Hey, I'm doing good, Tim. How are you doing?
Doing well. Been raining here for the last 36 hours. What about you guys there in KC?
We're at the very top end of that same system that has been afflicting Tupelo, and so we're getting rain, plus a little bit of heavy, wet snow is coming in this morning. So it's a lovely day here in Kansas City.
Well, springtime will be here before we know it, right?
Praise God.
Grass will be growing, and the flowers will be blooming. The birds will be singing.
Spring training starts in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
So
yes, that's right. Baseball spring training starts, so it won't be long now.
Yep.
All right. Well, I missed the show prep meeting this morning. I had my annual checkup at the doctor, where you go in.
And we want to ask you.
We really don't know. We don't know what.
Well,
to
you
ask.
mean go down my blood panel? Okay, because I won't know it till tonight. See what that cholesterol's doing.
Did they call you and leave you a message like, "Hey, I was calling you about your test results. Please call."
No,
it always sounds serious.
Oh, I know, right? No, they did the blood, drew the blood, and then they said you can check on it tonight or tomorrow morning. They'll have it anyway.
Were they smiling or frowning when you left the office today?
It was just, they were just signing me up for next year. My
Okay,
doctor,
that's good.
Well, that's optimistic. That's
my
good.
doctor told me 3 new vitamins I need to be taking, so I need to go check that out.
Okay.
Well, he didn't say you had it. He said he recommends these for healthy.
Okay.
So I'm going to check those out.
Sure.
Okay, wait a minute. You come on. Okay, so what 3 you mean like the kind you get at GNC or Walgreens?
Some health store he said go to here in town. Now I don't know. He may have a deal going with them where he makes a kickback for all I know. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm just kidding. But it's in the car. I don't have it. It's on the dashboard.
3 vitamins. Okay.
Yeah, three different vitamins. Vitamin B and
Yep. B's
Right.
good.
Right.
Huh?
Very
Yep.
You take B? Y'all both take B?
B for energy.
Yes, sir. Took
B
it
for
this
energy.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pardon me. So he said take B. I never taken B before.
Okay.
So
B complex, really good. B12, got to have it.
okay, well I'll get going with that. You guys recommend it. I don't couple of other things that he wrote down. I'm gonna check it out.
Mm-hmm.
I like to follow the doctor's orders.
Sure.
He's not an order. He wasn't in order. I'm not sick. I'm not unhealthy. I don't got a disease. Or do not have a disease or anything like that. So you'd be glad to know, especially communicable.
Yeah.
Well, they're planning to see you next year, so that's a good sign, right?
Yeah. He listened to my heart. Said, "You're good, man. You're a 60-year-old man. You're good."
Good.
So,
Good.
But he did recommend that, and so we'll see. I'll check it out. Like you guys recommended that vitamin B. I'll go check it out.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. So you're listening to today's issues. Listen, folks, on a serious note, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes with Rick Green, who's a Texan, and he's co-host of At the Core on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Walker does Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Rick does Tuesday, Thursdays. Fred, there's we have a confrontation now, a direct confrontation now between the Biden administration and state of Texas, right?
Yes.
And Governor Abbott,
Yes.
right?
And yesterday, Governor Abbott basically says the U.S. Constitution, the federal government under the Biden administration, is failing to uphold its obligation to secure our borders. Therefore, this is Governor Abbott says, designers of the Constitution like James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and others saw this scenario as a possibility of happening. And his argument is, Governor Abbott's argument is, because of the failure of the federal government to secure that border, the state of Texas, according to the Constitution, now has a right to step in and to defend that border.
Right.
So that's where the governor is at this point, and we have a guest coming up in a few minutes.
Yeah, we're going to cover this at length with Rick Green coming up in about 5 minutes. Chris, this is the number one story in the country right now, right?
It sure is. Yes, I've posted it on our Facebook page as well, so do look at the Today's Issues Facebook page. It's also in the comment section of this here program, which you can watch on the Facebook.
You know, guys, I saw last night, I was reading the news as I do in my patio at night, getting prepped for the show the next day. And I saw just one after another, Ray, governors from across America in red states writing and voicing support, writing letters on their letterhead and voicing support for Governor Abbott and what he's doing in Texas.
This statement that he made, which, by the way, everybody...
Talking about Governor Abbott?
Right, the Governor Abbott made, and you can find it on the internet, that came out yesterday. Just this first sentence, guys, this will take your breath away. If you think about the first sentence, the federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. I don't think in my lifetime I've ever heard any American governor make a statement as deeply troubling as that statement is, because basically saying that there's an agreement between the states and the federal government, and the governor of Texas is saying
right,
the United States has broken its side of the deal, therefore we have to step in.
Yeah. And the governor is very specific. He says the failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4.4 has triggered Article 110, Clause 3, which reserves to this state the right of self-defense. So that's what he's talking about here.
Yeah, good for him.
Yes.
Good for Governor Abbott, and good for all these governors. We can list them that have come out in support of him. And so, again, we'll talk about that at length with Rick Green. There's so much more I want to say on that, but I want to save that for our conversation.
Okay.
But is there a secondary story that's after this story that's big trending?
Yes, this broke yesterday afternoon after the program ended, and it's a positive story, which AFA played a role in making happen. The Ohio Senate yesterday voted to override Governor Mike DeWine's veto
We're clapping.
of a bill that would ban the gender manipulation of minors and also prevent males from competing in female sports. It's one of those bills that contained a whole lot of language.
It takes a lot of courage to override your governor of your own party.
Of your own party.
Of your own party.
Yeah.
Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio made a terrible decision to veto this bill. And the bill basically did what, Chris?
Republicans in the legislature there wanted to ban the gender manipulation of minors. In other words, someone 17 and under couldn't get drugs and surgeries and whatnot
in Ohio.
In Ohio until they
minors.
were legal age.
We're not going to let minors
Correct.
manipulate or what would you say?
Undergo surgery on their bodies,
right,
or to be given chemicals.
Right. That's not happening in Ohio for minors.
Right.
And we're not going to allow boys to play in girls' sports.
Yes.
And a number of states have already moved in this direction.
Sure.
It's not like Ohio would have been the first.
So for some inexplicable reason, Mike DeWine, the Republican governor of Ohio, who is conservative on some things and then moderate to liberal on others, he vetoed the bill. And then the House of Representatives in Columbus is the state capital,
correct.
True? In Columbus, and now the Senate said we have enough votes, and it was a big margin.
Yes.
To override your veto.
Yes.
So good and we did play a part in that. American Family Association.
We did.
We have a lot of supporters in Ohio. We email with that, and we ask them call, write, contact. And again, it's rare that you see a state legislature override a governor of their own party. Well, it's rare that a governor of their own party that is in the majority holds a different view on something as significant as this. So this is a big victory for the children of Ohio. And
female athletes.
And congratulations. If you're state senator there, your state House member in Ohio, you know them, and they did the right thing here. You need to congratulate them.
Yes.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Well, I said we were going to talk with about this issue with Rick Green. That is what's happening with the state of Texas via the federal government, and then how this is causing a dividing line in our nation, our country. Rick Green joins us. Good morning, Rick.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Rick is, Tuesdays and Thursdays he hosts At the Core. Walker does Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 1 to 2 Central Time here on American Family Radio. And Rick is the founder of the Patriot Academy. We kind of framed it, what's happening here. You go ahead and put it in your own words, Rick. What's going on?
Well, man, it all comes down to the question of who has constitutional authority to repel an invasion. And the Constitution's clear on this. Biden's wrong on this. Greg Abbott's right. I got to tell you, Tim, I'm not a fan of Greg Abbott because of COVID and the way he shut down Texas and all that good stuff. And I've been yelling for 3 years for him to do exactly what he did yesterday. The language that he used in his statement is a big change. I mean, this is huge. For him to say that the federal government has broken the compact between the U.S. and the states, that it is not doing its job. Under Article 4, Section 4, the feds are supposed to repel an invasion, supposed to protect us from an invasion. They're doing the opposite, of course. They're facilitating it. They're funding it. They're encouraging it. They're in direct violation of their constitutional duty. And so Abbott's saying, listen, we're going to use our authority under Article 1, Section 10, Paragraph 3, which says that states can repel an invasion if it's an imminent danger and you can't delay, which we've delayed long enough. That we have a right. Now, some people are going to say it's not an invasion. This is not the give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, families wanting the American dream. This is an invasion. These are mostly military-aged men from China, Russia, the Middle East, all over the world. And we're talking 10 million, at least 2 million gotaways. I mean, these are nations emptying their prisons, Tim. They're emptying their prisons and sending us their thugs. This is absolutely an invasion. And Abbott did declare an invasion about 6 months ago, but he kind of has been taking baby steps. We've been screaming for 3 years to do what he did yesterday. But now he is literally standing in the gap, and Texas is standing in the gap and saying, we're going to do our job under the Constitution, and we're going to say no to the Supreme Court. And I'm sorry for filibustering here, but the reason I'm in a little bit of shock is because Abbott comes from the legal world. He was a district judge, Supreme Court judge, attorney general, and he's always bowed at the feet of stare decisis. So if the Supreme Court says so, he follows it and isn't willing to buck it. He bucked it yesterday. He actually cited Scalia from that U.S. v. Arizona case that Arizona lost, and where the Fed said that they could only control the border, and Scalia dissented and said, "What are you kidding? States can't actually protect their border? That's insane." In fact, Scalia's question was, are the sovereign states at the mercy of the federal executive's refusal to enforce the nation's immigration laws? And for Abbott to cite the dissent and use that like we've been trying to get him to do. Oh, brother, this is a big shift, and a bunch of other states are jumping on board and saying we're with you. Oklahoma, South Dakota, Florida, Utah. We got a bunch of governors that have said, hey, we're with you, Abbott, go for it. So, man, guys, this is a big deal.
It's a big deal. Yesterday, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida said this. He said, if the Constitution really made states powerless to defend themselves against an invasion, it wouldn't have ratified it in the first place, and Texas would have never joined the Union when it did.
Such a good point. As usual, Governor DeSantis thinks through this stuff and puts it in context. Yeah, guys, get in the time machine, man. We go back to 1787. You're essentially changing from a confederation of states really loosely knit together with very little power at the federal level. And you're going to do this new Constitution that's given a lot more power to the federal government, but still very much limiting it to 15 things at the time, 2 more later with the amendments. But, these guys were not – they would not have ratified – I think DeSantis is exactly right. They would not have ratified a Constitution that took away their ability to protect themselves. They believed in self-defense, whether it was immediate self-defense, somebody walks in and threatens your family, or – national self-defense, or in this case, state self-defense. DeSantis is, as usual, 100% right on this.
Fred Jackson, Chris Woodward, Ray Pritchard, I'm Tim Wildman, and our guest is Rick Green, co-host of At the Core and founder of the Patriot Academy. And Fred, did you have a question for Rick?
Well,
Or
I
comment?
I think it's profitable to remind people of a few things. Right now, the White House is saying the problem at the border is all the Republicans' fault because they won't give us more money. That is a bold-faced lie. That is
Yeah.
simply a bold-faced lie. Let's go back to 2020, campaign debate time. And Joe Biden said, if I'm elected president, I will invite a surge on our southern border. He gets elected president, and he takes away everything that Donald Trump had put in place. The Remain in Mexico.
Right.
Stop building the wall.
Right.
This is an invasion by design of this president. Do not believe the lies the mainstream media just repeats the lies of the White House out there that all we need is some more money and this will stop. That's a bold-faced lie. By the way, I heard Senator Ted Cruz this morning reacting to the proposed so-called bipartisan deal coming out of the Senate. Well, we have that clip because it's not a deal at all. This deal so far would allow 5,000 per day more coming into this country.
Do we have this?
Yeah, let's play this clip.
10.
Donald Trump is the most capable
Number
person
10.
to be president.
The people pushing this deal knew, if the American people knew what was in it, they would be against it. This supplemental bill is a kamikaze plane in a box canyon with no exit, headed for a train wreck. This bill normalizes 5,000 people a day coming in. 5,000 people a day is over 1.8 million a year. That's called an invasion.
The reason why we have a border crisis is because we have a president that won't enforce the immigration laws. Our border laws and our immigration laws have not changed. They are the same today as they were under Trump. The only difference is Trump enforced the laws, and then Biden on day one repealed all of that, and that's what kicked off the border crisis. If the president that we have now won't even enforce current immigration law, how can anybody pretend that he's going to actually enforce even stricter ones?
I think that's Marco Rubio.
Yeah, so we had Ted Cruz and then Marco Rubio.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. You're listening to today's issues. Let me ask you this, and then Ray, you chime in just a moment if you would. But I do have a question for Rick. So, do we have a showdown between the Border Patrol agents and is it the Texas National Guard? I mean, who's in control now down there?
Well, it could, and it may be that everybody just kind of has a standoff for a few more days, or I should say maybe a week or so here, because the case itself that the Supreme Court sided with Biden on was really just to lift an injunction. And
it wasn't a final decision.
It wasn't a final decision that the Fifth Circuit's going to hear, so they could buy more time with court hearings and all that kind of stuff. But on the ground, you're right. It is literally a showdown. Will the National Guard refuse to give access? And you know what's crazy here, guys? The whole thing is about you look at the arguments from the Biden administration to the Supreme Court. All of the statutes that they're quoting about why they deserve access. Those statutes are all about being able to apprehend and deport illegal aliens, to get access to private land, to apprehend and deport these people, not actually welcome them into the country, give them a phone, fly them across the country, and do nothing to actually deport them. That's what's crazy.
This is just me talking. I don't live in a border state, but listening to you, Rick, and watching this whole thing since Biden came into office, just open up the floodgates for anybody and everybody to come in here, not doing, as they say in the South, a doggone thing to stop it.
Yeah, and look, we're always for the people that want to assimilate and be part of the American dream.
Sure, we have legal immigration.
Legal.
We allow millions of people to come here.
That's right. That's right. It's all these gotaways and the people that are literally criminals and gang members. And to your point about the whole blaming of the Republicans. A couple of weeks ago when Johnson went down there, Speaker Johnson went down there with about 60 members of Congress, and then Jake Tapper interviewed him.
Went to the White House, you mean?
No.
Oh,
down
went to the border. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then Tapper interviewed him, and exactly what y'all were just saying about they're blaming Republicans for not giving more money. Johnson handled it great, and he said, listen, the Border Patrol themselves are telling us, no, we don't need more money. We don't need more buckets. We need to stop the flow. Stop the flow, not more buckets. That's such a simple way to see this. And the idea that they would blame the House Republicans whenever it's actually the administration that is supposed to, under Article 2, execute the laws. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Listen, people aren't buying it.
Yeah.
This is even John Fetterman, the Democrat from Pennsylvania. He's speaking out. There are more Democrats daily starting to speak out and criticize the administration, the Biden administration. Ray, go ahead. I know you want to ask a question.
You know, Rick, it seems to me that the president's in a bad place here, obviously, because there are laws in place, and Governor Abbott is basically saying, Mr. President, the problem is not the laws. The problem is that you have refused to enforce them. And now we see immigration has become the number one issue heading into the election this fall. So how is this going to play out? If you could put on your prophet's hat here for prognosticating over the next few months, we certainly hope that there's not physical violent showdowns between the border police and the Texas Rangers, the Texas National Guard. Nobody wants to see that. But politically, how do you see this playing out between now and November?
You know, Ray, I actually think this is why they have not taken Biden off the ballot yet. And for folks that think he's still going to be the nominee, don't forget that Lyndon Johnson was still on the ballot in March of '68. So he didn't get out of the race until March of '68. I think they want Biden to be the guy, the fall guy for these are horrible optics, right? I mean, this is a, like you said, this looks bad for them. But I think he takes all of that heat, and they keep doing this and fighting this until Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom or whoever their savior is going to be to swoop in and take the nomination this summer and run with it without having all these bad optics. So that's a little bit down the rabbit hole of where I think it goes. But I couldn't agree with you more. I think Tim's right. I think the American people see through this. You see those images. Now, remember, there's a lot of folks that are in their echo chamber, and they don't see the images, right? They're only listening to major media, so they're only hearing that we're keeping little families that are being abused in their country from coming in, and we're not the asylum that we used to be for folks and all of that stuff, which is all baloney, but that's what a lot of people, that's all that they're getting. They're not getting the whole story. So there'll still be some people that don't see these bad optics, but for average Joe American that's doing any effort to notice what's going on, or thankfully because of Ron DeSantis' idea that Greg Abbott acted upon, which was sending these illegals into all of these big cities, and now they're dealing with the pain that Texas and Arizona and others had been dealing with. A lot of people that didn't want to pay attention to it are now having to pay attention to it because right there on their sidewalk. You hear these stories out of these big cities where we've shipped a lot of these folks, and it's horrific. And they deserve to feel that pain because they wanted to be a sanctuary city. They voted for these policies. Now they're having to live with these bad policies, and now they want to see something change. So you've got Democrats switching to Republican and saying we want this solved, and they're about to find out, the Republican Party is the only one that's willing to solve this.
Our founding fathers could have never envisioned a president who wants to sabotage his own country.
Yeah.
Huh?
Or an education system that would teach its own children to hate their own nation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the same type thing. It's the same philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, you're right, Fred. I was seeing that the problem with this mass illegal immigration is now the number one issue among the American voters.
Ahead of the economy.
The general public I'm talking about, not Republican or Democrat necessarily, but just as a broad public issue, ahead of the economy. Inflation was number two.
Yeah.
So, in fact, this morning, it was John Kirby. What's he, national?
He's one of the national advisors.
National security advisor or something like that. We all know who I'm talking about, John Kirby. You see his picture. I was surprised. He said, yeah, we got a problem. We're trying to fix it. Now, his nose grew like Pinocchio when he said that. But just to admit it publicly on camera and be a top official to the Biden administration, I was shocked. Now, somebody might want to tell Karine Jean-Pierre so she can, make up a new story this afternoon. All right, Rick, thank you so much.
Hey, bless you guys. Have a good one.
Okay, thank you. That's Rick Green. Ray, Tim, Fred, Chris, we'll be back in a minute, and maybe we can find this list of states that have
I'll dig it up.
We'll list the states that are showing support for Texas and Governor Abbott.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
It was a borrowed car. Mine was in the shop. I had looked at the gas gauge earlier, and it registered half full. But there I was, sitting nearly directly under a traffic light at one of the busiest intersections in town. I had checked the motor out pretty good and decided that the trouble was either a bad fuel pump or just plain out of gas. I raised the hood on the car as a signal to those behind me that I was having trouble. It certainly wasn't an ideal location to have car trouble, but the car was too heavy for me to push out of the line of traffic by myself. I left it unattended long enough to make a phone call to the garage and inform them of my troubles. They said they would send a wrecker immediately. After I returned to the car, I decided to give it a try to see if I was indeed out of gas. There was a gas station just directly across the street, so I walked over and asked the attendant if he had a gas can that I could borrow to get some gas in to take to the car, which he could see. He told me he didn't have one, that someone had borrowed his and had not returned it. I then asked him if he had anything that I could carry some gas in, that my car was stranded in the middle of the street, as he could see, and I figured it just might be out of gas. Well, I got the cold shoulder treatment all the way. He said he didn't have a thing to carry gas in, and said it in such a way that I got the message. I saw a water can and several empty oil cans around, but I decided that if he didn't want to help, I wouldn't try to force him. I walked back to the car and stood outside to wait for the wrecker. I guess I waited something like 15 to 20 minutes. Several hundred cars passed me at that intersection. They were all makes and models. Some expensive cars passed, and some that were more in my class drove by. Nearly all the drivers gave me a look. They were mixed looks. Some didn't like it because I was blocking traffic. Others looked as if they saw a man who was having car trouble, but it wasn't of any interest to them. I watched them all pass me by, and in my mind was a thought, isn't anybody going to offer to help? I must admit I got a totally negative reply to my self-question. Nobody was interested in the least way in helping me. Well, being a Mississippian, I thought at least someone would stop to help. I was in the hospitality state, and I was a native of it. By and by, I noticed a very old model car, which appeared as if it might stop running at any moment, and it began to pull alongside as if it was going to stop. I noticed that the man who was driving the car was a black gentleman. He and his wife and family, about 5 children, were in the car. He got out. I saw he was dressed in clothes full of holes and patches. He came up and spoke. "Anything I can do to help?" he asked. Well, I explained the situation to him and thanked him for his offer. But the wrecker was on his way, and really there wasn't much he could do to help. But as he drove away, I thought of the parable of the Good Samaritan. Indeed, the truths that the Galilean carpenter taught are enforced by the experiences of everyday life.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
In Him, we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of Him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of His will. Ephesians 1:11.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. A couple things. If you want to access the podcast of this show or any of our shows here on American Family Radio, we post this show within an hour of us getting done at 11:30 Central Time. So podcast, hundreds of thousands of people are listening to our American Family Radio podcast. So any of our shows you can click on and listen. Go to afr.net and click on the podcast, and then you can find the show you want to listen to, and boom, there it is. So if you missed today's issues, you can listen just by clicking on the podcast. at AFR.net, AFR.net podcast. So check that out. I'm Tim with Fred, Chris, and Ray. We've been talking about the number one story in America right now, and that is the confrontation between Governor Abbott and Joe Biden, the president, over who controls the border of Texas and the United States. And Biden is allowing an invasion of our country, and he's allowing millions of people to come here, not doing anything to stop them, and he's failing to protect the citizens of the United States and directly the people in Texas, Arizona, and other border states, but primarily Texas. And so the governor of the state, Abbott, has said, "I'm tired of it, and I'm not taking it anymore, and I'm ready to fight." Basically, over this.
And he says, I have the constitutional support to do this.
Yes, he's not acting lawlessly.
No.
He's saying, I have the authority to help to protect and defend the citizens of my state since you're not doing it.
Yes.
And he cited Governor Abbott and Rick Green did last hour. You did.
Yes.
You cited the statutes that Governor Abbott is using, right?
Yeah. This is Governor Abbott, quote, "The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4, has triggered Article 110, Clause 3, which reserves to the state the right of self-defense." And he goes on to say the designers of the Constitution saw the possibility of this happening, where the federal government neglects to fulfill its duties, in this case, securing our border. And what Governor Abbott is saying, the designers of the Constitution put this Article 110, Clause 3 in there that says the state then, if the federal government refuses to fulfill its responsibility, the state has the right then to go in and do that duty, and in this case is to protect our border.
Hey, if somebody has, we're looking here, Ray, I don't know if you found it, but Chris is looking. We're trying to find a list of the states' governors who have issued letters of support for Governor Abbott.
I have a couple of them.
Okay, because if you find those, post them on our Today's Issues Facebook page.
Yeah.
Our Today's Issues Facebook page, if you can post the states that have, because I was reading last night the news, and they were one after another. You have a list?
I have a list of a few. The list includes, at this time, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who vowed to keep assisting Texas with what DeSantis called personnel and assets as the crisis continues. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem also accused Biden of what she says dereliction of duty, or what she calls dereliction of duty. And then Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt also declared that his state, quote, stands with Texas.
And we know Glenn Youngkin of Virginia has also joined that group. But there are more. You're right.
There are others, but I can't think of them, and I can't. But there are other red state governors in the last 24 hours who have come out with support for Governor Abbott. Ray, is this a civil war? We're about to get in a civil war?
I'm looking on my Twitter feed right now, and in the trending, which shows nationwide, trending is that phrase civil war. And you look at it, okay, you click on it. It's not talking about Shiloh or Gettysburg, right, or Appomattox. It's talking about the showdown at the border between the governor and the president of the United States. Is this civil war? That first sentence from Governor Abbott's statement, the federal government has broken the compact. That is an extremely serious thing to say. Is this civil war? No. But this is one American governor saying when you break the compact, bad things are bound to happen. So is this civil war? No. But I suppose it's a step toward that.
It's not a shooting war.
No.
It's a civil war in the courts, I guess you could say right now. Or it's a standoff, but not a physical military type standoff. But it is, what I was going to say earlier, and this is just my opinion, okay? The Border Patrol agency I don't know if that's not the right way to. That's not their proper. I don't think that's their proper title. But anyway, they need to speak out.
The union has.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they need to stand out there and make a big deal out of this with all the Border Patrol agents lined up behind them and their spokesperson, and they need to get on national television and they need to tell the truth about what's happening. I'm not saying they're lying, but tell the truth about what's happening and say, we support Texas. Because, yes, they are right, because we are being invaded, and all we're being told to do is basically, hand out welcome wagon bags.
Yeah.
And I don't. Quite frankly, I'm sitting here looking. This is my observation. I'm sitting here. What's the point of having a border control patrol if you can't stop anybody? I mean, they're not stopping anybody, are they?
No.
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 If they stop them, they just send them on through.
Yeah. They're processing, as they say.
Processing.
Yes, they're doing paperwork.
Well, then call them border processing agents.
That's right.
Huh?
Yes.
Just call them that.
Yes.
Again, I'm not faulting them individually. I know they're just doing their jobs. But until they join the ranks of rebuking Biden, are you saying that their union, they have a union there?
Their union head has come out and said publicly that the White House is lying when they say the border is secure. He has stated that. The White House is lying when they say the border is secure.
From time to time, we do have clips from Border Patrol Union officials on this show. They're often on Fox and Friends. Talking
Yeah,
about
but they've
this
been
very
doing
issue.
that for 2 or 3 years, and I don't see any effect for them saying anything. It just, in Mayorkas, the
Homeland Security.
Guy,
He's facing impeachment over this.
He's bless his heart. He's a joke, and he's a joke.
He also has, I'm going to put it mildly, he has an integrity problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has testified under oath,
Right.
committee hearings, that the border is secure.
Interestingly enough, we talked about the governors standing with Greg Abbott over this situation. A number of attorneys general, state attorneys general, have called for the impeachment of Mayorkas. That list includes Andrew Bailey of Missouri, the Attorney General of Oklahoma, whose name escapes me at the moment, and then Austin Knudsen up in Montana. Montana has dealt with a lot of illegal immigrants from the southern border situation. There was actually a guy last week that pled guilty to homicide in Montana.
Okay, who gave me this?
Steve brought that in.
Okay, Steve Jordahl brought this in, and this is right now, I guess, 14 states have spoken out. I guess they're by virtue of their governors issuing statements or letters in support of Governor Abbott and Texas for standing up to Biden and the federal government on this. And they this is right now. This will probably change today. I'm sure it will. Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, Idaho, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming have stepped up to support Texas efforts and deployed personnel and resources to secure the border in President Biden's
May I have a
absence.
copy of that? I'll post it for you.
You sure may.
Thank you.
Have a copy of that. Well, it's a number one issue in our country and will remain so. It's reached a what do you call it? A boiling point.
It has. I mean, in the primary the other night in New Hampshire, when people were polled, this is New Hampshire, people were polled coming out from voting. They said this is the number one issue for them in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire is
that's way away from the border.
Yes, it is.
Again, I like what Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, said about this. He said, if the Constitution really made states powerless to defend themselves against an invasion, it wouldn't have been ratified in the first place, and Texas would have never have joined the Union when it did.
The list that we just read from is from an official document from the Texas government dated December 29th, 2023, but it relates to the issue that we're talking about here today. I am going to post it.
Okay. And so anyway, we will see what happens. It's going to be a big election year issue, not only in the presidential race, but also senators and congressmen. They're going to have to state where they stand.
Yes.
And I personally think, I don't know if there's any appetite for this in the Congress, but we need to suspend the asylum process for a year.
Oh, absolutely.
Huh?
Absolutely.
Till we get a handle on this, because every single one of these folks coming over our border illegally from around the world are claiming asylum.
Yeah. And that's all they have to do. Just imagine this for a second. You know, 27 years ago, when I applied for a green card, you would not believe the red tape I had to go through to get a green card to come to this country. Months. It took months. Right now at our southern border, you show up, you crawl up the bank from the river, asylum, that's it. You get a piece of paper to show up at a court hearing maybe 5 years from now.
Right.
This is what's happening.
Well, it's anyway. All right, next topic, Chris.
Let's go. Let's enter the bright and cheery world of politics.
All right, Chris.
I got a couple of things here. Because as we all know, there is a two-man race for the Republican Party's presidential
That'd be
nomination.
one woman, one man, Chris. Come on, man.
Well, yes, two persons.
You're not going PC on us too, are you?
No. There's two people still in the running for the Republican
I'm just saying
Party's
Nikki Haley identifies as a woman.
She does.
Okay.
She does. And I bring this up because I have a couple of clips here. There is a well-known and very wealthy GOP donor by the name of Andy Sabin. He's the chairman of the board of something called Sabin Metals.
Andy?
Yeah. I don't know if it's not spelled like Nick Saban, folks. It's Sabin.
Just wonder whatever happened to him.
But Andy
you said he
Sabin
became a billionaire?
Yeah. I don't know how he got his money, but God bless America.
I knew I should have stayed in business with him, but
Yeah.
I got out now.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
Well, Andy was on Fox News Channel speaking specifically to Neil Cavuto, and Andy Sabin is of the opinion that Nikki Haley needs to take a cue from Kenny Rogers, the gambler, and know when to hold him and know when to walk away. I've got audio here from Andy Sabin, clip 3.
It's time for Nikki Haley to walk away. I will be the first person to write her a check for president in 2028. There's no viable path to continue. You can only harm yourself by going to South Carolina and losing by 30-plus points.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if Nikki Haley stays in or gets out. She is from South Carolina.
She is.
And she is trailing Trump in the polls there substantially. This gentleman said 30 percentage points. But if you ask Nikki Haley and her team, you see she would say, yeah, but we have a month to close that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to give it our shot. In other words, if you're Nikki Haley, Ray, you're probably thinking, and her team, I didn't get in this to get out after two.
After
Iowa, New Hampshire, you're telling me get out. Go ahead.
She did fine in Iowa, came in a little bit behind Ron DeSantis,
right.
And she came in a reasonable second to Donald Trump. He didn't beat her by 30 points. South Carolina, that's where she was governor. Now, I think she's going to get trounced there, right?
It appears so.
It appears so, but I don't. If she has the money, Tim, I think she ought to stay in at least until South Carolina and then reassess. There's a point at which when the money runs out, you just have to quit.
I would say if she gets beat handily in South Carolina, she will drop out because that's her home state, and we'll see how she does. If I was giving advice to former President Trump, I wouldn't even mention her name. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. President Trump, if he's looking to the general election, he's going to need women and independents a lot of independents to vote for him. Well, Biden will too. Mm-hmm. They both would appeal to him. And the only thing one of the things that could hurt Trump in the next month, Ray, is if he already went after Kayleigh McEnany the other day,
right.
calling her a rhino, telling her to shut up and sit down. That was his former press secretary.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing there, but that's in essence.
Pretty much what he said, right?
Pretty much what she said. Trump went after Kayleigh McEnany. But if Trump, who just needs to ignore Nikki Haley for the next month, I don't think Trump needs to do anything. He doesn't need to say anything. He doesn't need to go to South. He doesn't even have to go to South Carolina, quite frankly, to win the state. So I just think he needs to be quiet and focus on Biden and the Democrats if he wants to. This is me if I was giving him political advice. You're laughing, Ray. I know.
Well, you said your advice to Mr. Trump.
He doesn't listen to anybody, so I'm just saying
he should be quiet.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying if he did,
right?
If he did, I do have a serious political point to make.
Sure.
In thinking about how if Trump spends the next month, because it's a month from now, South Carolina, and he's going after Nikki Haley hard every day, and he's calling her bird brain like he does every day. I'm just telling you, there are a lot of people who will look at that and go, he's being disrespectful to a woman. Huh?
Well, okay.
So don't say anything. I would say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm just going to add to that. I agree. Leave Nikki Haley alone. He's
Right.
going to beat her. She's
Right.
going to be swapped, I
Right.
think, unless things really change. If I were him, I'd get out ahead of this Governor Abbott stuff down on the
Amen.
border.
Amen.
I mean, if there was ever an issue ready
Right.
made for Donald
Yes.
Trump, this is it.
Yeah.
I would hit that. I would hit that if I were Trump. I'd hit that all day, every day. That's all I'd talk about.
every day.
Huh?
There was a
Every
poll
single-
earlier this week that found that immigration has now surpassed inflation as the big issue.
Yes.
This election.
Brother Tim mentioned that 30 minutes ago. But I'm sure you were doing some kind of research for us.
I have been. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll
Yeah.
see myself out.
Yeah.
I'm just looking on the Truth Social to see if Mr. Trump had posted anything. No, he's on his trials and stuff and the immunity question. But if I were him, I'd be talking about the stuff on the border and Governor Abbott. I'd get behind him all the way.
Yeah.
This is an issue made for him.
Right. But you understand what I'm saying. Trump is down in the vote for women and independents, and he doesn't need to beat up on Nikki Haley for a month. Is what I'm saying. Go
And
ahead.
that's why I brought this up.
Okay.
Because speaking of Nikki Haley, I've got some audio this morning of author and broadcaster Clay Travis, who is of the opinion that Nikki Haley would be the best, if not a great, if not the best choice for Donald Trump's running mate, assuming Trump does go on to get the nomination. I've got some audio of Clay Travis talking about this. It is clip 5.
Nikki Haley does do well with suburban women who are independent swing voters and the people that are persuadable. And I'm not sure at this point in time that you can point me to anyone that Trump would pick that would help him win the general election as a vice presidential candidate more than Nikki Haley.
Now, I don't have this in the soundbite.
Who was that, Travis?
Clay Travis.
Clay Travis. And wasn't he, didn't he part of the team that took over Rush Limbaugh's slot?
Now, this was not his show with Buck Sexton. That's the Clay and Travis.
Okay, this was
Clay
just
and
like
Buck
a
show.
podcast or an interview or something?
Yes. Clay does a lot of things, Outkick, and he's on Fox a lot. But so this was like Clay's own thing that he was speaking on. Now, he went on to say that he likes Elise Stefanik. He thinks she's pretty smart. He appreciates what she did against those university presidents who didn't do.
She, for those who don't know, she's a Democrat congresswoman.
Republican.
From a Republican congresswoman from the state of New York who's been very supportive of Trump.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
He said he liked her. He thinks she's pretty smart, his words, and but she doesn't really add anything to the ticket like a Nikki Haley would. He went on to say the same thing about Senator Tim Scott.
Okay, couple things right there. First of all, Nikki Haley, while she served under President Trump in the United Nations, she is not popular at all with the Make America Great crowd. The hardcore Trump supporters.
Yeah.
She is not. In fact, even Governor Ron DeSantis said he endorsed Trump over Nikki Haley. You remember that the other day?
Yes.
Even though he has no love lost for Trump, but he said she's better. He's better than Nikki Haley for conservatives. That's what Governor DeSantis was saying. But okay, let's put that aside. Ray, we have a long tradition in America of the major political parties coming together to either to have a geographical difference between a president and a vice president. I don't know that that's so much important today, but an ideological or I guess you could say a difference, putting the party back together. Republican Party is made up of primarily conservatives, but there are also some moderates, and there are also some people who, country club folks who care more about economic issues maybe. And so you have to put it all together to have a party, a major political party that's able to get enough votes and money and all other things to win. So to his point, that gentleman's point, he's probably right that Nikki Haley would give Trump I'm not for that, but I'm saying would give him a better opportunity with suburban women.
Yes.
Nikki Haley would.
I saw this yesterday, and I wondered, the first election I really remember taking place is 92. Okay, so I'm not steeped in history. I don't have a PhD in political science. Have you ever, in your time talking about or following politics, heard somebody say, I voted for that ticket based on the VP choice?
No. I agree with you on that. However, I'm talking about the internals of a political party structure that exists. There are, listen, okay, Mr. Trump won Iowa and New Hampshire. But guess what? He didn't get over 60%. There's 40% of the party that doesn't want him.
And a lot of unregistered Republicans did vote.
What I'm saying is it's incumbent on him, Trump, to, if he wants to win, is to try to put the Republican Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Well, he did a pretty smart thing back in 2016 when he got Mike Pence. Because remember, it's like 1,000 years ago. So much has happened since 2016. But if you go back to 2016, the evangelicals largely were on the fence about Donald Trump for a whole bunch of reasons, right? And weren't sure. One thing he did by picking Mike Pence, who the very least you could say at that point is as solid an evangelical leader as you could find, he solidified his outreach to the evangelical base. 80% of evangelicals voted for him, and he won in 2016. I think, Tim, to your point, Mr. Trump needs to do something analogous to that in 2024. He doesn't need to get just a clone of himself, but somebody who can bring the party together. Hard to believe he and Nikki would ever get on the same ticket, but I suppose stranger things have happened in American politics.
Especially after the bitter words. If I was creating a list, I would put Glenn Youngkin on that list for VP.
That's good.
For Trump?
With Trump.
Okay.
Because of what Youngkin did in Virginia.
Yeah.
He brought together the left under this parental rights issue.
Former President Trump is going to be somewhat limited in who he can pick from. Now, he'll have a wide variety, probably, but there are going to be a lot of people who see what happened to Mike Pence, and they're going to say, "I support President Trump, but I'm not signing up for. I'm not signing up to be his VP." Okay. So anyway, we'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
American Family Association, a ministry with a mission to inform, equip, and activate people like you to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and to give aid to the church here and abroad in her task of fulfilling the Great Commission. We couldn't do it without your day-to-day support. American Family Association. Find us online at afa.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Texas and the White House are continuing their legal fight over how to secure the southern border. Earlier this week, the Supreme Court handed the Biden administration a win, saying they could legally take down the razor wire put up by Texas along the border. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is pushing back, and his state is putting up more wire. He says the wire is within the state's right to self-defense.
Because the Biden administration has really, truly abdicated its responsibility to secure the border and enforce the laws, Texas very simply is securing the border.
Hunter Biden's former business associate is sitting behind closed doors for a transcribed interview with impeachment investigators today. David Spunt has more from the Department of Justice.
Today's line of questioning technically is not a deposition, it's a transcribed interview. Mervyn Yan, a former business associate of Hunter Biden, will not be under oath, but of course lying to Congress is a big no-no. The first two met back around 2017, according to sources. They say that the two came together through CEFC, a Chinese energy company with reported ties to the Communist Party of China. Now, the company has since shuttered, but according to House Oversight investigators, Mervyn Yan will be asked about questions about money that came from CEFC and through various companies.
A bill in Florida to restrict social media use to people age 16 and older passes one half of the state's legislature.
Florida's State House of Representatives passes a bill to ban use of social media by minors under the age of 16. The bill's sponsor, Representative Tyler Soroy, says there's proof social media is harmful to kids, driving suicide rates higher.
Or you see hospital admissions of self-harm increasing by 151% for ages of young people between the ages of 9 and 12. We have a problem on our hands.
The bill would require social media companies to conduct age verification and might make them liable for damages if children gain access. In Broward County, Florida, Eben Brown, Fox News.
The first candidate to lead the Southern Baptist Convention in 2024 has stepped up. Pastor Clint Presley says he wants to focus on some of the good things the SBC does. Steve Jordahl reports.
It's been a rough few years for the Southern Baptist Convention. Sex abuse investigations, critical race theory, women in the pulpit. A lot of attention has been paid to reforming or retrenching, depending on the issue. Hickory Grove Baptist Church Pastor Clint Presley tells AFN he's willing to take on the challenge of leading the denomination for the next year or two.
I felt like our convention right now could, use just some steady leadership.
He says he wants to put the focus back on the inerrancy of Scripture and growing and supporting local churches.
I want to elevate missions. I think that, in all that's going on, some of what we actually do well is put on the back burner. So I'd like to strengthen churches and really call out the next generation. We've got a pastoral crisis, I think, coming.
Presley says he's not unaware of the issues the denomination is going through, although he's a little surprised by some of the battles.
It's odd to me to have the conversation about women pastors. It just felt like that had been settled. So to have this conversation, I just didn't see it coming, honestly.
As for the broader issue of theological drift, as is the contention of some Southern Baptist leaders who formed the Conservative Baptist Network in response,
I think Al Mohler probably said it best. I have a Conservative Baptist Network called the SBC.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
And finally, a potential breakthrough for children who are born deaf.
An experimental gene therapy being hailed as a success for children born with inherited deafness. Small study in China significantly restored hearing to 5 of 6 children given the targeted treatment. Doctors saying the 5 were able to respond afterward to a regular conversation with others. Meanwhile, here in the U.S., Children's Hospital of Philadelphia says an 11-year-old profoundly deaf boy was the first patient to receive that gene therapy in a surgical procedure at CHOP. They say he now only has mild to moderate hearing loss. Doctor at CHOP calling the treatment a breakthrough they've been waiting for 20 years. Sue Guzman, Fox News.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The world around us is constantly challenging the way we think. That's why we need a constant source of information that's based on the unchanging Word of God. I'm Jeff Chambly, and I invite you to join me for The Stand Radio, a weekly program that highlights the latest trends in culture, faith, and family. You'll hear insightful interviews with a biblical worldview application. The Stand Radio, Saturdays at 4 p.m. and Sundays at 8 p.m. Central on American Family Radio.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues. That's the name of this show on the American Family Radio Network. We're here through Monday through Friday. On Fridays, we have trivia, and we're going to have a live trivia show tomorrow. Last Friday, we couldn't because everybody who works here at our network was iced out. The ice basically hit 4 or 5 states, and including our hometown here in Tupelo, Mississippi. And as I've said before, southern redneck drivers and ice is a bad combination. And so we told all our rednecks to stay home. Huh, Ray?
Good, smart move.
Sorry, told them to stay home. Do not get out on 2 inches of ice and try to drive.
Rednecks and ice don't mix. That's good.
Yeah, rednecks and ice don't mix. That'd be a good country song right there.
somebody should write that. Maybe somebody already has.
You know what a lot of Southerners don't know when it comes to ice, because it's so rare, driving on ice, is that, guess what? 4-wheel drive doesn't work any better than a 2-wheel drive. But they think it does at first.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to work better, and it does in snow.
Yes, it helps.
In snow, but you get ice, it doesn't matter whether you can have a 6-wheel drive, doesn't matter. But anyway, so that's the reason we didn't have a live trivia show last Friday. But tomorrow, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we're going to be here. JJ, Ed, and I will be here for Trivia Friday, so we'll have some fun tomorrow. Now, Steve Jordahl. Good morning, Steve Paisley Jordahl.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Doing well. We have I guess we're wrapping up. This is Thursday, so the week will be over tomorrow. We wanted to end the week by seeing how many ultrasounds we can help our supporters help preborn by to save unborn babies. And so we asked Dan Steiner to be back on with us. Dan, good morning again. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good to be on the program, Tim.
Where are you today?
Great. Well, today we're in Indianapolis at the world headquarters of Preborn.
Are you a native Indiana? Are you a native Hoosier, I should say?
I'm a Yanker. Yeah, I'm a Yankee. I'm a Hoosier. I'm not sure what a Hoosier is. But...
Well, the Indiana Hoosiers and the movie Hoosiers, that's I always... So you're not sure what you are.
Well, I know I'm a man in Christ, but I don't know
Amen.
what they define a Hoosier as. Actually, it was a preacher, Tim, that impacted the state. Is the real history of that, which is a whole lot better than being associated with Bobby Knight.
Yeah, Bobby had he passed away recently, right? So
yeah, he did. Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyway, again, I know you've been asked this 1,000 times by people on AFR, but I want you to make an appeal to our listeners today to on what $1,836, what $50, $75, $100 can do. What is preborn exactly, and what are you guys doing around America?
Well, we are the only ones that are really stopping abortions hour by hour. We save about 200 babies from abortion every single day. And we do that by reaching these girls where they live, which is on the internet. They're searching for their abortion. Maybe they're in Mississippi. They can't get an abortion. So they're going to go on the internet and find out a destination state where they can go to get an abortion and be trafficked by abortionists. Or they're going to go on to the internet and get an illegal abortion pill, concoction of death mailed to their mailbox, and go through hours of bloody trauma and deliver their baby dead on their bathroom floor. The abortion clinic today 58% of them, nearly 60% of all abortions are chemical abortions, and it's in our neighbors' teenage daughters' bathrooms or the abortion clinics, more than half. So preborn is really only viable competition against that. We spend millions of dollars reaching these girls, getting them online, have them talk to our call center, get them into our network care provider clinics all across the country, and so they can see their baby. Blobs of tissue don't have those. Babies do, and they choose life. And I was just recently in Las Vegas. This is what preborn does at our clinic there, and a girl came in from Iowa. She had been paid to go for her Las Vegas abortion vacation to get an abortion in Las Vegas from the Planned Parenthood of Iowa. But she ended up in our clinic, which is right beside the abortion clinic in Las Vegas, not coincidentally. And she met her baby, which is 15 weeks. They're going to destroy a 15-week-old baby. And just fell in love with the baby because one of the listeners of AFR underwrote the ultrasound, free ultrasound for us, a medical service worth $300. We're paying for it by $28 a piece. Underwrites an ultrasound, 5 of them for $140, 10 of them for $280. Well, there's just hardly anything you can do that with $280 or even $28 that has bigger impact, you know. And 100% of that, Tim, goes to our clinics. Every one of those $28
gifts,
you know, sponsorships go to the clinic. We underwrite our own overhead. So.
Okay. So, folks, over the past 17 years, preborn partner clinics, which you're hearing Dan Steiner, the CEO, talk about, have counseled over 500,000 women considering abortion. More than 280,000 babies' lives have been saved, and more than 80,000 women have surrendered their lives to Christ because they give a Christian testimony at these clinics as well. So we've been working with preborn for a long, long time now. And so just to be clear, your one-time gift of $28 provides one woman seeking an abortion a free ultrasound. And you just double from there. $56 provides 2. So if you want to make a gift, and we encourage you to do so if you haven't already, what number do they need to call to make a donation? You take credit cards, Dan?
Absolutely.
Okay, what's the number to call?
Yep.
Give us the number, Dan.
You guys are using your own proprietary number, I think.
Oh, okay.
They can go.
Okay, I got it. I got it right here. If Dan, just say, Tim, you give the number.
Tim, you give the number.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Here's the phone number, 877-616-2396. Okay, I'm going to give that again. You call, you make a one-time gift, you buy 1 or 2, 3 ultrasounds, whatever the case may be. How many you want to buy? Ultrasound. It buys an ultrasound for a young lady who's seeking an abortion. 877-617-2396. 877-2396. Now, if you want to go on the internet, just go to afr.net because we got a place there to give. You can make it afr.net, afr.net, afr.net. All right, Dan, take care. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, bye-bye. Dan Steiner in Indiana. He said he's in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
What he said? Mm-hmm. Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah. Just stop and think about this for a minute. My wife and I went out to a restaurant last night celebrating our wedding anniversary, and the bill came to about $85 or so for the two of us.
Right.
That buys you almost, quick calculation, 3 ultrasounds.
Right.
Right there.
Right.
And, you know, the record that preborn has, once that mom, they go through that ultrasound and they see that baby, so many of them say, no, I want to keep that baby. Yeah. Wasn't that an interesting story? This lady got paid by Planned Parenthood in Iowa to go have an abortion in Las Vegas.
Right.
Their clinic, preborn clinic, is right next door to Planned Parenthood there in Las Vegas. She goes in there instead, sees the ultrasound, the baby's life is saved.
I want to know if Planned Parenthood flew her back or decided to leave her in Las Vegas after she did the abortion.
Right. All right, Steve, what's your first story?
Well, I have a breakthrough in the medical field, which I just want to briefly touch on before we get to the other news. This is in the journal Metabolites. The journal Metabolites.
I was reading that last night.
Well, did you read this study, Tim? Oreo cookies Lower LDL cholesterol more than a high-intensity statin therapy.
Amen. Amen.
I know, right?
Wait a minute. What now? Tell me that again now. 'Cause
My research agrees 100%.
The title of the study is Oreo Cookie Treatment lowers LDL cholesterol more than high-intensity statin therapy in a lean mass hyper-responder on a ketogenic diet. A curious crossover experiment.
I think you're breeding from the National Lampoon right there.
I got it pulled up right here. I'll show you after the show.
Okay.
Look, I just took my statin, whatever that is, just a little while ago.
I did too, right?
Yeah, I just took that. I'm going to go get, what do they call this? Double stuff. I'm going to get some
Oreo.
double stuff Oreos.
I'm not sure if it's the stuffing or if it's the cookie part. So just
I don't know.
Take your well, you get both. So,
but to be safe, eat the whole thing.
Right.
So you're telling me Oreo cookies equal broccoli now?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
It's the science, Tim. You can't question the science.
You can't question
I,
science.
I just brought up one of the questions you always ask is, okay, who funded the study?
Right.
Now, Oreo cookies is made by Nabisco. If Nabisco is on that list, I would be highly suspicious.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Well, I think that Anthony Fauci's on the board of directors of Oreo.
Might be.
That's right.
Huh?
Honest to
I
God,
tell you what.
That's good news. Good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm the only one, but I had to go to the doctor this morning for my annual physical, so he put me on the scale. Right? They lifted me up on the scale.
That's no good. Sorry, that's no good.
Well, no. I said, so the doctor said, doctor came in, he said, well, last year at this time you weighed 100. I'll just tell people I don't care. He said, you weighed 184 or something like that. I said, yeah. He said, today you're 192. I said, yeah, I had a bad Christmas.
It's been a tough year.
Yeah, I sort of tucked my
really
head.
Tough year.
Yeah, I looked down and said, yeah, I had a bad Christmas. But you know what? I know we all joke about it, but it is true, Ray.
Yeah.
That between start in October, November, and then you're in, a lot of people aren't as active, right? Because the weather,
That's right.
the weather
Weather's
gets bad. And then you start eating about, that one extra pumpkin spice bread a day.
Right.
Or, it adds up. Next thing you know, your doctor's saying, hey, you've gained.
Yeah.
Note to self: schedule
So
doctor
I told him
visits
I told him I was dealing
Right.
with it. I told him I would understand, and I would. Because when your weight can affect your cholesterol levels and your overall general health. So anyway, he didn't guilt trip me. He just said, well, good. I'm glad that you got this under control and you're headed back in the right direction. I said, yeah.
Tim, when
I
the
blamed it. I
program's
blamed
over-
it on the holidays. And
That's right.
Yeah.
When the program's over, Tim, grab yourself a handful of Oreos, right? And a diet.
Get back on the
Pepsi,
health
and
train.
Everything's going to even out.
But also during Christmas, that 6 or 8 weeks from Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe before Thanksgiving, then everybody starts putting out stuff in front of you.
I know.
I'm talking
And
about
you want to be kind. You want to be gracious. You don't want to
meals.
say no.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can't say no.
You can't make
your
people feel bad.
secretary brings brownies and it says, here, have 2. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. I
Have
know.
at least
It's an obligation.
Yes.
You don't want to hurt their feelings, so you.
It's just kindness. That's
Yeah,
all.
that's. It's sugar. You're
Yes.
being nice.
And as you get older, your metabolic rate recedes
Yeah.
somewhat. So, when you're young, you can burn that stuff off.
Oh, man.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that.
When you get older, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, next time Wesley's in here, my son, which he's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, one of my sons, he 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, he suffered through an Oreo cookie addiction.
Oh.
Yes, and he's it's part of his testimony.
Did you have to have an intervention?
Huh? I don't know if he had an intervention or it dawned on him one day that he was sort of like the.
He went. Did he go cold turkey off the Oreos?
Well, he found himself in
It's hard to
the food prodigal son pen, pig pen, and he came to himself and he said, "I got to get off these Oreo cookies. Look what's happening to me." So anyway, well, it's a funny story. We'll get and tell you about it. All right, he like ate 2 sleeves one night or something like that.
Who hasn't done that?
Oh, okay.
Come on, who hasn't done that? We've all done the end of a really hard day.
You know, midnight, you're going, what have I done to myself here? Huh?
I'm getting tired of lettuce and tomatoes.
That's right.
I'm gonna knock back a couple sleeves of Oreos here.
I'm more into
nobody's gonna stop me.
I'm more into the single-serving half-gallon ice cream things.
Oh, you're an ice cream.
Single serving half gallon. I like the sound of that.
You can binge on that.
Oh man.
My weakness is banana pudding and pound cake, and blueberry donuts.
Put on the pound cake.
Huh? Put on the pound cake. Those things right there. Huh? I better have somebody around me.
Come on now.
Who stops me?
You can do an accountability thing with Wesley.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, Steve.
All right. If you could save me 3 minutes at the end of the show, I have something that I've teased with Ray already this morning in our story meeting that we got to get to. But start here. There's a couple things coming out of Israel. Hawaii Democrat Senator Brian Schatz is putting an amendment in the national security bill that says the United States supports a two-state solution for Israel. There are 2 Democrats who are refusing to sign on to this. John Fetterman and Joe Manchin are declining to sign on to this because it does not specifically call for the destruction of Hamas. So good for them. Israel, meanwhile, has said that Iran is a legitimate target for missile strikes.
They said that out loud.
They did.
Yeah.
And then, it might not matter what the Senate says about a two-state solution because I got a Hamas leader, senior officials, Khaled Mashal, who says, no, we're no longer interested in a two-state solution. They never really were. But he's saying October 7th now made us realize that from the river to the sea is a possibility, so we're all in.
Let me ask you guys this. This story was barely, because of all the big stories that's been happening in our country and in our world, this story barely made the news. But about 4 or 5 days ago, there were 2 Navy SEALs?
Yeah.
Yes.
That were active duty in the Persian Gulf area. Is that right? And
I think so.
I think it was off Somalia.
But they died.
Yes.
In action. Do you know what happened there?
There was a ship that U.S. intelligence believed was carrying weapons to the Houthi rebels
in Yemen.
Off the coast.
Off the coast of Somalia?
Yes.
Are these the pirates that hijack ships? And
yes.
stuff?
Yeah. So there was this ship they believed. These 2 Navy SEALs, I don't have all the details of the operation, went after that ship. And they were not seen since, and their bodies, to the best of my knowledge, have not been recovered.
They have not been. They're declared dead. One of them fell off the gangplank or in the transfer fell into the ocean, and the other one, the news story I heard said, following SEAL tradition, went in to save his comrade, and they both. And
he died too.
He died too.
Yeah.
Well, okay. There's 2 things going on over there, Ray. In I say the Persian Gulf, the what am I thinking? Is that just the Indian Ocean? What is that over there off the coast of Africa?
Well, it's the Strait of Hormuz where that narrows down there.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things that have been happening. Again, this doesn't make the news every day. If it is, maybe it's way down the news cycle. But things are getting tense over there, Ray, in that part of the world. And what's happening, of course, we've always had to deal with pirates off the coast of what they call the Ivory Coast there in North Africa. Their only motivation is money. Okay, so have you ever seen that? You ever see that movie with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
What was the name of that? It was about 3 or 4 years ago. He was the captain.
Captain Phillips?
Yeah, it was based on a true story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Merchant ships have had to pay attention to that and deal with that, the threat of pirates off the African coast for a long, long time. That goes back to our country's founding.
Oh, really? Right, for centuries.
Yeah.
For centuries, the pirates have been active over there. If you add this, Tim, the death of these 2 Navy SEALs, and you look at the Houthis with their drone attacks on our ships, and then you have Israel saying that Iran, it's fair game for missiles now,
Right.
because everybody knows Iran is backing what is happening, both on the north side and on the south side of Israel. This is a powder keg, one little spark, and suddenly the whole region goes.
If we could take one group of people and move them from planet Earth to the moon, it would be the Iranian mullahs, because they're the ones that are stirring up trouble around the world in a lot of ways. The Iranian government controlled by the Iranian mullahs. The Iranian people themselves, many of them, they want to break free from this tyrannical Islamic control.
Yes.
What am I looking for? Where they control Sharia law, but they can't. They've tried. They're trying. But go ahead.
Well, Iran. The reason Israel is stating this, Iran is funding Hamas terrorists.
The Arabian Sea. That's what we're looking for.
Yes,
I'm looking. Okay.
Iran funds Hezbollah.
Right.
Iran is funding these Houthi rebels.
Right. The Houthi rebel. That's one thing. The Houthi rebels you're talking about. People hear, well, who are they? They are in Yemen.
Yes.
Right. Yemen is a country just to the south of Saudi Arabia, and they are these Houthi rebels. Is that what you call them?
Yes.
Okay. So they're also a proxy for Iran.
Yes.
Another one. So they're terrorists basically, and they even hate Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
They've been right. So what they're doing, they're firing some. They've tried to fire some rockets, some weapons into Israel from Yemen. Again, you got Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and then Israel. So they're trying to. And Saudi Arabia shot down some of these coming over their airspace. But here's your problem: you got these pirates, and then coming off the coast of Africa for these merchant ships. And then you've got terrorists in these rebels, and they're in Yemen, and they also got weapons, and they're firing at ships, and particularly U.S. Navy ships, right?
That's correct.
Fortunately, we've been able to knock all their shots down so far, but they're trying to stir up. They're trying to engage in a war, basically, with the U.S.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah, and it interrupts international shipping because a lot of shipping companies now are afraid to go from the Gulf of Aden into the Persian Gulf.
Fred and I are looking at a map of that region because that's important to know how things narrow. You got the Suez Canal. You have the
Well, yeah, and the ships go up through the Red Sea. They get in the Mediterranean. Now they're being forced to go down around the southern coast of South Africa.
Oh, my word.
This increases that, and it's increasing costs of goods. So this has got an international impact. Just don't think this is confined to the Middle East. This is affecting the whole world commerce.
Right. So, anyway, Israel, do we have an update on the Israeli situation with Hamas and Gaza? Is that just ongoing?
Yeah, I haven't heard any.
Well, the story this morning is that Israel is building a buffer zone now.
Yes.
And they have been. They're building a 1 kilometer, they say, buffer zone, taking over some of Gaza territory, and they say this is going to be permanent. So the Gazans cannot
Well, they got to do
that.
that. Yeah, they got to do that. You form a no man's zone,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
Steve, thank you.
My pleasure.
Ray, thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Tim.
My thanks to Fred and Chris, Rick Green, Dan Steiner,
And Oreo cookies.
Brent Freely, our producer, and brought to you by Oreo cookies. Oreo cookies. They got a lot of free advertising today.
Oh yeah, it's good for you. It's what we've just found out.
So basically, what we've established, ladies and gentlemen, today is that Oreo cookies are a perfect antioxidant.
Health food.
I'm liking a health food. That's
a health food. We'll be back tomorrow with Trivia Friday. Take care. Thanks for listening.
Well, you can stand where Forrest Gump stood on our tour of Washington, D.C. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Jenny, we're going to Washington, D.C. Just kidding there, folks. That was pretty lame, Forrest Gump. But we are going to the Lincoln Memorial, and we will stand out over the